than success. I once knew a woman named Sarah. She was smart and hard-working. Since she was a child, she loved books. While other children played outside, Sarah sat in her room reading. She wanted to learn everything. She dreamed of a great future. Her parents were proud of her. They told her, "Study hard and you will have a good life." Sarah listened to them. She studied day and night. She had no time for games. She had no time for fun. She only cared about success. Sarah went to the best schools. She got the highest grades. Teachers praised her. Classmates admired her, but she had no close friends. She never went to parties. She never laughed with others. She thought, "There is no time for that." Years passed and Sarah became a doctor. She had everything she worked for: a good job, a big house, and respect. People looked up to her. Patients trusted her. But her house was empty. She came home to silence every night. One evening, Sarah sat alone in her living room. She looked at her books, her awards, and her expensive furniture. She had everything she wanted, but something was missing. She felt empty inside. She had no one to talk to, no one to share her life with. She had success, but was she truly happy? She asked herself, "Is success enough? Do I need something more?" Sarah tried to ignore the feeling. She told herself, "I should be happy. I worked hard for this life," but the empty house felt colder every day. At work, she was always busy. Patients came and went. She listened to their problems. She gave them medicine. She helped them heal. But when she returned home, she had no one to listen to her. One night, she sat by the window. She watched the street outside. She saw families walking together, parents holding their children's hands, friends laughing as they talked. She realized she had no one to share her evenings with. She remembered her childhood. She never played with other kids. She never made close friends. She only cared about school. Now she wished she had done things differently. Sarah sighed. She felt a deep sadness inside. She thought, "I built my career, but I forgot to build a life." For the first time in years, she wondered, is it too late to change? Days passed, but the feeling did not go away. Sarah woke up early, went to work, and came home late. Her routine was the same every day, but now she noticed the silence in her house more than ever. One evening, she sat at her desk and looked at an old photo. It was a picture of her parents and younger brother. She had not seen them in years. She was always too busy to visit. She thought about calling them, but she was afraid. What if they are angry with me? What if they don't want to talk to me? She put the photo down and walked to the kitchen. She made a cup of tea and sat at the table. She listened to the sound of the clock ticking. The house was too quiet. The next day, at work, she met an old woman named Mrs. Brown. She was kind and smiled a lot. She came for a simple checkup, but she talked about her life. She said, "I lost my husband 5 years ago, but I am not lonely. I have my children, my grandchildren, and my friends. They are my happiness." Sarah listened carefully. She thought about her own life. She had no husband, no children, and few friends. She only had her job. Before Mrs. Brown left, she said, "Success is good, my dear, but love and family make life beautiful." Sarah smiled, but inside her heart felt heavy. That night, she lay in bed and stared at the ceiling. For the first time, she admitted to herself, "I don't want to be alone anymore." The next morning, Sarah woke up feeling different. She looked around her house. It was big, clean, and beautiful, but it felt empty. She sat on her bed and thought about Mrs. Brown's words, "Love and family make life beautiful." She picked up her phone and stared at the screen. She found her mother's number. Her fingers hesitated before pressing the call button. The phone rang, and after a few seconds, a familiar voice answered. "Sarah, is that you?" Her mother's voice was soft but surprised. Sarah felt her throat tighten. "Hi, Mom." "Yes, it's me." There was a pause. Then her mother spoke again. "Oh, Sarah, it has been so long. How are you, dear?" Tears filled Sarah's eyes. "I'm fine, Mom. I miss you." Her mother's voice broke. "Oh, sweetheart, we miss you too. Your father always asks about you. Your brother talks about you all the time. Why don't you come home for a visit?" Sarah felt something warm in her chest. "I would love to, Mom." After the call, she felt lighter. She hadn't realized how much she missed her family. For years, she thought work was the most important thing. But now she saw that love and connection mattered more. A few days later, she packed her bags and took a train to her hometown. The journey was long, but she felt excited. She hadn't been home in years. When she arrived, her mother and father were waiting at the station. Her mother hugged her tightly. "My baby girl, you're finally home." Her father smiled, his eyes full of love. "It's good to see you, Sarah." Her younger brother stood beside them, grinning. "I can't believe you're here." For the first time in years, Sarah felt truly happy. She was home. That evening, Sarah sat in the living room with her family. The fireplace was warm, and the air was filled with laughter. Her mother brought tea, and her father told old stories. Sarah listened, smiling. She had forgotten how happy these moments felt. Her younger brother, James, looked at her. "Sarah, do you remember when we used to play in the garden?" Sarah laughed. "Of course I do. You always ran faster than me." James grinned. "You were always reading books. You never had time to play." Sarah thought for a moment. It was true. She had spent her childhood studying. She wanted to be the best. But now she wondered, had she missed something important? Her mother touched her hand. "We are so proud of you, dear. You worked so hard, but we also missed you." Sarah's heart ached. "I missed you too, Mom. I didn't realize how much." Her father looked at her gently. "Success is good, Sarah, but love is important too." Sarah nodded. She finally understood. Money and success were not everything. Family, love, and happiness mattered more. The next day, Sarah walked around her old town. She saw children playing in the streets. She saw friends talking and laughing. Life here was simple, but it was full of joy. She sat on a bench and watched the sunset. It was beautiful. She took a deep breath and smiled. For the first time in years, she felt at peace. The next morning, Sarah sat by the window, watching the sunrise. The sky was painted in soft colours, and the world looked calm. She held a cup of tea in her hands and thought about her life. For years she had worked hard to be successful. She had achieved her dreams, but she had also lost something: time with the people she loved. Her mother walked in and smiled. "Good morning, Sarah. You look happy." Sarah nodded. "I am, Mom. I finally understand what I was missing." Her mother sat beside her. "And what is that?" Sarah took a deep breath. "Balance. I thought success was everything, but love, family, and simple moments are just as important." Her mother squeezed her hand. "I'm glad you see that now." Later that day, Sarah packed her bags. She had to return to the city, but she was not the same person anymore. She had changed. Before leaving, she hugged her parents tightly. "I promise to visit more often, and I will make time for the things that truly matter." Her father smiled. "That is all we want, Sarah." As she drove back to the city, she felt lighter. The road ahead was long, but her heart was full. She had found something more valuable than success. She had found happiness.